And every so-called black American need to ask the right questions. You have to question it. Who are you? That's the number one problem our civilization, our society, or our nation. And when you're talking about so-called black America, it's already what you call ethnically our own nation, tribally. We are our own tribe of people already. No matter what state you from, no matter what region of the country that you are from, at the end of the day, when you go to different cities, whether you go to California to New York, whether you go from Michigan to Texas, whether you go from Florida to Illinois, it's going to be regional differences with our culture, but our people going to be pretty much doing the same thing. We're pretty much going to have the same behaviors, and we are pretty much the same people because we all are emanating from the same source of creation. So we got to ask questions. Man, know thyself. That's one of the most important things to know, is to know who you are. Where are you from? And the people in power have not gave a proper explanation about who we are or where we're from. They have gave a vague explanation saying that we all come from Africa off slave ships. They haven't showed the documentation or the proof that we come from Africa. For all us in the Americas to come from Africa, we'll need to see all the ship manifests. We'll need to see all the ship manifests started from 1492 on. How did they get the war? Where's the first-hand accounts of people being stolen? Their grandmas, their grandparents. Not a narrative of the colonizer. I don't give a fuck how many slave castles the people over in Africa who are puppet governments, just like we got black boule puppet governments over here, you got slave puppet governments over in Africa. I don't give a fuck how many times these puppet African leaders talking about come home to the slave castles. Those are fucking trading posts. They're not slave castles. They were trading goods and services throughout that bitch. Fuck the trading posts. Where's the first-hand documentation? Where's the first-hand documentation of the million? You talking about you took 12.5 million people without any explanation of warfare. Yet, at the same time in America, we can see how that happened over in the Americas because we can see the direct wars. We can name the wars and the battles starting here in North America, down to Central America, what today is Mexico and Guatemala, things, Belize, things of that nature. Going over to the Caribbean islands in South America, we can go through the battles and the wars and how the Indians were enslaved and shipped all throughout the American continent. Indians right here in North America was shipped to the Caribbeans. Indians in the Caribbean islands were shipped to North America. Indian in South America were being shipped to the Caribbean. Indian from the mainland Mexico was being shipped to the Caribbean and North America. So you have people throughout the Americas being shipped, the indigenous people from when these people invaded this land. That's the first slave trade. And the question so-called black Americans, again, man, know thyself and ask the right questions. Why doesn't the school system teach the magnitude of this slave trade and how they invaded the indigenous people? When you go look at the artifacts of these people, the painters, how they depicted prior to the 1800s of these people, they were always dark-skinned, melanated Negroid people. When you dig the bones out the ground, you find the melanated Negroid people. When you dig when they do reconstruction, skeletal reconstruction, you find melanated Negroid people. When you find the oldest graveyards, you find the melanated Negroid people. Just like every other continent has a melanated Negroid people, you find the same things in America. So again, so-called black America must ask the questions. You cannot take the narrative of the people who admittedly said they fed your babies to alligators to tell us that we all came from Africa. That if we took the school system away, now let's talk about this. If we took the school system away and you knew nothing about yourself, only thing we would have is what our grandparents and their parents told them, and that will be Indians. So when people talk about my family is mixed with Indians, no, it was that one time our people was not classified as black Americans. We were not classified as Negroid. We was not classified as free people of color or colored people. We was classified as Indians. We was classified as Indians because they attacked the indigenous lands, and that's just what's going on, and that's the truth of it. So ask the right questions. Why aren't they telling about this slave trade? Why aren't they telling about this Negroid population that was already here? And why have they reclassified us 10 times? Man, know thyself. What's the difference between you and a dog? What's the difference between you and a cat? What's the difference between you and a giraffe? If they're going through nature, they can't say, who am I? Where am I at? Where am I going? I went here last. They don't have the intelligence of God. So use the intelligence that God has given us and ask, who are you and where are we from?